Hello guys, welcome back to another video by clip on my YouTube channel, and this is going to be the second part of making the amazing bassline using Vital. So the previous video was about Vital synthesis, and I did announce that this video is gonna follow up with the preset, but I wanted to make a distance between those two videos because I wanted you to wait a bit for the preset, but while you were waiting for a preset, you had all the information needed how to make this preset. By doing this, I wanted to encourage all of you to make your own basslines just by following up what I'm doing. That way you will be able, while you change all the parameters inside the Vital, if you have already written the MIDI and if you are listening, this is the best way to train your ear when it comes for a synthesis. So by listening and modulating and tweaking the knobs and everything, your brain will just start realizing, and this kind of skill of synthesis will go more under your skin. So this way I wanted to give you the reference, or to have some midpoint. Tomorrow when you start making your own bassline, you have some reference for making that basslines. Now we will move to the processing, and as always the first in the chain will be some type of the multiband plugin, and for this case I use the M-Saturator MB. Now you can load up the 4 bands or 3 bands, it doesn't matter, because the 3rd and 4th band will not have anything to do with the sound on this bassline. The most important thing is the crossover point in between 1st and the 2nd band on this multiband plugin. And the section, the 1st band is on 39 or 40 dry, and 2nd band is on 50 dry, while 3rd, 4th are at 0. The most important part of this plugin is the crossover position. And by changing this crossover position left and right, the phase on the bassline will change a lot. And this is why I'm using a lot of multiband, as I want to transform the phase of the bassline, and that way it will sound much more processed. Now the second plugin is again the multiband, and I have used the multiband envelope shaper from Cubase, but this plugin is working exactly the same. I did the A/B testing, and just because we have a lot of Ableton users, Bitwig, Fruity Loops, etc., I wanted to show you the third-party plugin, which can be replacement for multiband envelope shaper from Cubase. This plugin as well, there's nothing, no changes. Attack at 0, attack at 0, attack at 0 on each of those bands. Sustain, saturation, nothing has been changed. Only the crossover position in between of first 2 bands is what is important, as by changing this position, you will be able to shape your bassline to sounds much different, just manipulating the phase of it. You might not be able to hear a difference while you change this crossover position, and this you can address to your speakers, your monitoring system, or your room. After I upgraded my speakers to Focal SM9, I was shocked how much difference it was making to only change this position. If you want to do A/B testing, you can set it on one position and bounce one note, and then you can change the position and bounce on the other one, and then you can compare those 2 waveforms. You will notice that the change is pretty huge. And now we are moving to the third plugin. Again, it is the Multiband Vitamin from Waves, and this plugin is one of the plugins that I will always put on my basslines. It does some really good magic on the low end as well, again, just by manipulating the phase. Also, what is important about this plugin is this position over here. Where do you set it? This one will change the phase a lot. You can do it as well with this one over here, but my advice is to keep it simple as possible and just move the first crossover point in between 1st and 2nd bands on each of those multibands. Of course, you can use this one if you want to increase a little bit of mids by moving this fader up mids and high mids. But this is optional. Now I did set 2.5 on this plugin over here, but you don't need to do it. I can just move it back to 0, and I can just apply a little bit more of volume over here. And the 4th one is of course R-Bass. And R-Bass, my start point is around -12 dB. And this frequency, it will depend from case to case. So basically I would play the kick in the bass and move this left and right until I find the perfect spot for this bassline over here. So without the R-Bass, So this R-Bass plugin, it also works in a way of changing the phase. I know that it doesn't look like that, and by setting this frequency to 100 and by removing this intensity down to -12, does look like we are just increasing some of the frequencies, but it's not working like that. Also some slight change in the phase on the bassline as well. Otherwise, we could do this just pulling up the low shelf on our bassline. But this plugin, it also manipulates and change the phase. And where do you set this one? It will be connected to how it's changing that phase. And the third and the only EQ I have set in this bassline, FabFilter Pro Q3. And as you can see, I have one low cut over here on 40 or 39.8. I have one big bell on the low end on 46, -2.5 dB, and Q is 0.4. I have another band on 389 for -1.7 and Q is 0.9. And I have a high cut over here on 8K on 6 dB per octave, as I just want to reduce or to remove the highest frequency on this bassline, as I really don't like them. But if you like the style of Vinny Vici basslines, then you might consider not setting any high cut over here. And of course, PJ 979, finding the best sounding phase point for the whole sessed bassline over here, and all together with the kick. And after that, I just have this LFO, another one, just to be sure that I do not have anything on the area of the first 16. And after that, I have a limiter, but limiter I just used just to see what is happening with the sound while I manipulate with it. As the gain is at 0 output and there are no any changes or modifications by using this limiter. And there is this patchwork which I didn't use for this one. If you want to make a full-on music, then you might consider opening up a little bit of this decay over here till 0.100 or 0.150. Or you want maybe to change a little bit the curve of the first envelope. That will open up the bass line a little bit. Also, if you make a full-on music, you might boost up the sustain, but be careful with it because it goes all the way up, it will just be too messy. Or if you want to create a bit more ducky bass line, you can reduce the sustain. But for my taste, this shape of the first envelope is the best sounding one. So I'm gonna keep it like that. So that will be my amazing bass line by using the Vital. And I must say that I'm really happy that there's another plugin which gives me ability to make a bass line, as there is not much of them. The first one was Trilogy, then I moved with the Serum, after that Rapture, as well as the Silent in some moments. And with Vital, I believe I came up to the amazing results, the fastest from all other VSTs that I have been using. So this was my video about making an amazing bassline using the Vital. As you can see, there wasn't much of the processing on the inserts of the Vital. After making a really nice synthesis, I just applied several multiband plugins in order to manipulate with the phase. And when it comes to processing the bassline, this multiband plugins really helps to modify the change in the phase. It is not as PJ 979, as the PJ 979 will just modify the whole channel and the phase of it, while multibands, they will make something really different on the phase. It will be like they are making an extra harmonics or something similar to it, but it's happening with the phase. So now you will be able to download the presets for Vital, but I hope that you already made it last week when the first video was released, and now you can just apply several of the processing. But if you made this preset before, you understand that this bassline sounds really nice even without the processing already. The processing will help a lot, because now without the processing the peak will be much louder. There's gonna be a lot of low-end informations as well, but it's a really nice start point. So I really hope that you managed to make this preset by your own, and I hope that you had some fun and experiment a little bit of the processing. And in this video you can see how I made it. I just want to mention that you do not need exactly as I do. I'm just giving you an examples and giving you an options which are out there. And I hope that you enjoyed in this video, and see you soon with another video. Bye, ciao.